if you want to extend the battery lifespan on Xiaomi 15T and 15T Pro, here's what you can do. So most of the time, we can just simply go to battery settings on our phone. And over here, we can go to battery protection. This is like the basic form of extending the battery lifespan because the charging protection allows your phone to slow down the process of battery aging. And I understand that it might be inconvenient to use this option because most of the time it limits the battery and it can be charged to 80% rather than 100%. But it is just the way batteries are optimized nowadays. The ideal percentage for a battery is between 20, maybe 30% and 80%, which means that you should start charging at 20 or 30% and stop at 80. That's why we have these charging protections. You can choose which one suits you the best, but of course you are never forced to do so, so you can still opt out or opt in as you wish, and you can, for example, choose charge fully, so you can charge to 100% all the time. But since we are talking about improving the battery life and optimizing the battery, it is definitely recommended to use charging protection. And here we have additional features which might be relevant to only certain people in certain situations. Like, for example, we have the 5G battery saver, we have the cold endurance mode, which of course I know that not everyone lives in areas where it's often cold, so this might not be relevant to you. But if you actually do live in these areas, then you can consider enabling this option. We also have schedule power on and off, so if in case you need to use them, they can be quite helpful as well. Now, in the case of 15T Pro, we also have charging options, and this is actually not available for 15T, but in here we have the charging mode. So over here we can enable the fast charging, also known as top speed. And if you actually believe that fast charging makes the battery age faster, then of course you can switch to standard. I'm not saying it's true or false, it's of course up to personal research, I guess, and personal experiences, but I'm just saying that if you care about this stuff, then of course you can choose whichever option suits you, which one you prefer. And that is pretty much it in terms of battery settings. We also have, of course, the battery saver and ultra battery saver, which are recommended to use in certain situations where the battery is slowly dying and you don't have a charger. So you can get extra minutes, maybe even hours, if you choose one of these two options. Of course, it is not recommended to use any of these options all the time, especially the performance mode, because it will drain the battery fast, of course, but only in situations where it is just, applicable and suitable. So you have to keep that in mind. We have the battery checkup, which can also be used in order to use these suggestions, and usually these suggestions are really great to consider. So instead of going through all these settings, you can usually just go into the battery checkup and you can check if these options are enabled or disabled, depending actually on the feature itself. And of course, not everything has to be used over here. For example, we have the dark mode, which of course you can turn on if you don't mind it. We can also create a schedule for the dark mode, which I'm gonna show you in a second. We can also lower the screen refresh rate to 60 Hz, and of course this can be really inconvenient and annoying to use because, well, we have 144 Hz over here in the case of 15T Pro and 120 in the case of 15T. So why would we give up on that smooth animation experience and so on and so forth? So it's up to you if you actually prefer it or not. Like I said, you are never forced to use any of these options, but since we are talking about extending the battery life, I have to mention them. And you can go through this list and you can actually decide which options should be implemented, and then you can tap on Add button over here at the bottom in order to, of course, do so. And most of the time, this is all you can do. Well, this is all you have to do, really, to optimize the battery. There's also the security app, which can also be quite useful to optimize the phone. And of course, optimized phone is always better than unoptimized one, and this can save you the battery a little bit as well. Over here, we can also jump to battery settings if needed, but usually this button, this optimize button, is really quite helpful. We also have boost speed, which can also be quite useful because it closes, for example, running apps and so on and so forth. So you can quickly close them all at once. Now, Besides that, we can also go to location over here in settings, and a little trick that I learned some time ago is in location services, and that is the Wi-Fi scanning and Bluetooth scanning, because these are the options that can sometimes be enabled and you might not even be aware of that, and they can help you save the battery quite a bit as well, because these options do not have to be enabled all the time. Whenever they need to be enabled, and it is actually very rarely, then of course your phone will notify it about you. It will notify you about it, and of course then you can turn it on, and whatever you are doing, it is done, then you can switch it back off. It is definitely recommended. I can recommend you to turn these options, these scanning features off. And finally, let's go to display and brightness, because over here, of course, many of these options also have an impact, and many of them are actually included in the battery checkup in the battery settings. But I have to, show you them if you decide to go through them manually. And I mentioned the dark mode having the automatic option, the schedule, and yes, if we go to dark mode options, then over here we can choose to switch to dark mode automatically, and then we can choose when we want the dark mode to be enabled and disabled. We also have the screen brightness. Of course, it is recommended to use the automatic brightness. We have the refresh rate option. We have AI image engine, which are of course really great features to use, but they increase the battery consumption. So it's up to you which one you prefer, better quality of videos or more battery. And yeah, and that is pretty much it. Of course, there are also other stuff, like for example the usage of Wi-Fi and mobile data and Bluetooth and NFC and location, which of course most of the time we keep them on for the most part, but you can consider turning them off whenever you don't really use them. For example, right now in my case, I don't have any Bluetooth device connected to my Xiaomi 15T Pro, so there is really no need for me to keep Bluetooth enabled, and this can save me the battery as well. So if you are in this situation, then of course you can turn it off, and naturally, whenever you want to connect a Bluetooth device, you can just quickly turn it back on and connect your device. So that's pretty much it. And thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe.